Secret Service Barbie, a highly trained member of the Secret Service, removes her weapon from its holster for the very first time in her career. She struggles to return her pea shooter as though it's her first day on the job. Fortuitously, her skills from a previous life as an amateur actress come into play, allowing her to convincingly mimic the swift draw of the weapon and scan the horizon for threats. Chewing her gum nonchalantly, she attempts to exude a tactical demeanor, reminiscent of a fusion between the Blues Brothers and Rosie O'Donnell. Despite her efforts, our agent's attempt to return her wireless hole punch to its home results in another failure. While she may have faltered at this most basic of tasks, she certainly looked cool while doing it.
She certainly looked cool.
She looked cool. Looked cool.
Listen,
and collected.
other than because we have to be respectful, obviously somebody lost their life. But other than that person and their family who are grieving, is anybody having a worse day than that chick that couldn't holster her gun? I mean, you talk about that woman has to just be in bed with a bucket of Haagen-Dazs in front of her. Just
not that I should talk, but it looked like she was in bed with a bucket of Haagen-Dazs before that too.
Oh my goodness, man. What a crazy past couple of days it's been. I can't believe this is our first time getting on air.
I know. Honestly, I was surprised that we didn't do an emergency stream on Saturday evening.
I would have if I was home.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So Father Nick's texted us and he was like, "You guys want to jump on?" I'm like, "Dude, I have no internet right now. I couldn't possibly."
And I literally just woken up from a nap and figured out what happened. So
dang, bro. I want to hear both of your guys' stories like after we get to the announcements of what you were doing, where you're at. Because this is one of those moments that we're going to ask, like, what were you doing? Where were you at?
Well, before we get to that, why are we on late? Well, we're on late because we're scrambling to do things. And then suddenly somebody sends us a screenshot of Michael Lofton reviewing an Avoiding Babylon episode.
But to be fair, we were scrambling to show each other our guns.
Well,
yeah, that's good.
Look, I even got my gun.
Does Michael Lofton have guns in the back of his stream? Yeah, I don't think so.
I highly doubt it. But yeah, so apparently I have to watch another Lofton video.
Dude, I'm so done with Catholic politics. I'm like, Lofton, you can make a 40-hour hit piece on me. I don't even care.
Well, the thing with so you're talking about Catholic
Catholic politics. I'm just like, it's just
politics. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just like, man, these fools, get out of here, you know. That's all.
Okay, so real quick, guys, please like. So, that's the Kennedy Hall is coming. Kennedy Hall is coming.
He figured he'd allow us time for a good argument beforehand.
Yeah, we were gonna bring a co-sleeping and then have him jump on a little late. So Kennedy's in Canada. And he is a good father, and he puts his kids to bed. So he asked me if he could come on a little bit late. So Kennedy will be here. He's probably going to jump on. Last time I think it was like 8:30, 8:40. He jumped on. So give him a little bit, but it'll be interesting to hear the outsider's perspective. Kennedy is on tonight. Yes. Staying up late metric time.
Metric time, bro.
It'll be interesting to hear the Canadian perspective on American politics. But yeah, he's just putting his kids to bed. I think his wife's away, which is why we booked this for tonight. Real quick, subscribe, go check out our merch store where we have some awesome stuff, bumper stickers that say things like, "Have you accepted Mary as your personal mother and intercessor?" We got a bunch of stuff in there. I'm not going to sit here and beg you guys to go there, but we also do locals, and on locals tonight we're going to play all the memes that we would get copyright infringed on this show. So like there's things that have music in the background, you can't play them on YouTube because you will lose, the algorithm will kill it and all that stuff. So I sent Nick and Rob a list of Italy, Advent in Italy with Patrick Hoff and myself. Somebody said that's just an elaborate plot to deport me.
That'd be so good, dude. That'd be so nice.
elaborate plot to deport Anthony back to Italy. As if I'm
Funny part is they don't have any more room for actual Italians over there.
no, they don't.
I thought it was still Advent in Africa. That's what I'm telling people if they're interested to show up.
Yeah,
Advent in
Tyler
Africa.
Tyler just said it.
Let's go, bro.
And then in 2 weeks, Enoch is coming to stay at my house, and we'll be going to New Jersey where Catholic Palooza is happening. If you guys can make it to that, you can get tickets and just use code AB27 when you buy the tickets,
Yes.
and that will let them know that we're the ones who sent you. All right. So where were we when we heard the news?
Howdy to my favorite family on this planet. Great to have you guys here.
Was it the Harrisons?
That's the Harrisons. That's the
Harrisons. Yes.
Yeah. Glad you guys are here.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, do you guys want to hear my story? I could tell a story. So if you guys, I saw Rob tweeted, he goes, "I took a 90-minute nap and I come back and Trump was shot."
My story is actually kind of wild, not gonna lie, and I'll make it quick because Anthony will at least take 20 minutes. But basically, I was at the Society Chapel for Saturday evening mass. I'm driving home with a friend. We're just chit chatting. My dad keeps calling me.
The Society's such modernists. They have Saturday night masses.
Not vigil masses, just
Yeah, right.
daily mass. And we're driving. My dad keeps texting me like more than he normally does. Like, do you see what happened to Trump? Do you see what happened to Trump? I'm like, what's going on? So literally in my mind, two things went through it. A, someone's taking a shot at him, or B, he's chosen as VP. Those are the two things that came to mind.
Yeah.
So I just, while I'm driving, pulled up on my phone, Fox News, and I said, okay, friend, what's going on here? He reads, Trump shot in the head, rushed to hospital. And I'm like, what? Click on the link. Let's hear more. He clicks on the link. All it says is Trump shot in the head, rushed to the hospital. I was like, thanks, Fox News, for giving me a heart attack. So I'm freaking out. I am freaking out. I literally, I'm driving. I slump into the wheel. And I'm
Nick's
like,
not El Duce. Oh.
I was like, one of our greatest hopes is dead. These complete monsters have taken a shot at him. This is a nightmare. So we pull in to the local church because I was like, look, bro, we're going into the church. We're going to pray. And when we pull in, we find the video. And then, of course, we see one of the greatest moments, top 10 greatest moments in United States history. Trump gets off the ground, all bloodied and all, lifts his fist up into the air and shouts, fight 3 times, with an American flag flying overhead in the background. The sickest moment by far, I think, of my entire lifetime. And so, of course, he walks down. We were so thankful. We went and gave Thanksgiving, etc. But man, for the next 24 hours, I was buzzed. I was just in this haze of these freaks.
Nick, if there ever was a time to be on Twitter, man.
Oh, I know.
The 24 hours after that happened were some of the wildest 24 hours on Twitter. And the thing is, I had no internet, so I was away for the weekend with my wife. My wife and I did a Saturday night, alone without the kids, and I was getting spotty internet, so I wasn't really even on Twitter. But every once in a while, I would just pop in and just see what was going on, and it was insane, man. Just crazy. Rob, you took a nap?
Yeah, I took about a 90-minute nap. Woke up, and I'm how you are after a midday nap, right?
Yeah.
So I'm laying in bed, just kind of coming to, and I check my phone and I go to Twitter, and I just see that picture of Trump, right? And yeah. I'm like, why is everyone tweeting this picture? I'm like, it's a kind of a cool picture, but I'm like, wait, what's on his hand and head? Is that blood? What the heck is going on? And then I actually started seeing some articles and stuff. It's nuts.
Crazy that picture, probably the most iconic political photo. I mean, it might go down in his of all time for sure.
That photo will be right up next to Washington crossing the Delaware. There's no way it's not
next to the Iwo Jima guys putting the American flag up. That's how big of a deal that picture.
1000%. Because as I said in my video, that was not just an epic moment on a natural level. A guy literally got shot and he's being courageous. He's like, let's go fight. But 2, it is a great image of the American spirit. It does not matter how hard you kick us, we're gonna come back.
I did not see this. No, but Taylor watches our show, so maybe we'll post a screenshot from here. So I'm away on the boat. I spent. This isn't coming up in my feed. Shadow.
He's the second person that said that.
Probably because we have the name Alex Jones.
That might be. Oh man.
Did you check the list?
You sent us a list like, don't say these words. Also, put Alex Jones in the title.
You see what I have to deal with, Nick?
I'm so dumb. I sent these guys. I'm like, this show's probably gonna get big. Let's make sure we leave. Like, don't say controversial words. And I sent them a list of words not to say, and I put Alex Jones in the title.
He's like, make sure you put this in the title. Make sure you put his big picture right on the thumbnail.
I
think with like all the topics we're talking about, there's just no way that one of us is going to just be picture perfect.
Let's hope everybody enjoys the show and they share it. That's the way to beat the algorithm. But okay, so I'm on the boat now. Boaters are insane Trump fanatics. Okay, so
let's go.
My wife and I are on our boat, and every single boat in the aisle, like, so we stay at this place. It's a marina that has probably can fit like 400 boats. I would say 3/4 of them have Trump flags or FJB flags or something.
Let's go.
The place is just packed with Trump supporters. And me and my wife are cooking dinner, and the guy next to me goes, "They shot Trump." Bro, every single boat in this place starts blaring their horns. Everybody and all the people.
There's almost an armada of Italians going down the East Coast to DC.
No, there were pop-up Trump parades on the water over the whole weekend on Long Island. Like, there would just be pop-up Trump parade on the boats and people blaring their horns, going crazy. Now I'm surrounded by a ton of boomers and like older Gen X guys. And the conversation, it was just interesting to be around all these guys and talking to them, because hearing them all say very similar things. They're all like, I knew the government was corrupt, but I had no idea it was this corrupt. And then everybody just starts saying right off the bat that they think this thing was done on purpose. It's like, this is one of those that there's not a single person there that thinks, because what's more shocking to me than somebody getting this shot off is that this is the first time something like this has happened that we know of, right? I mean, this guy speaks at rallies.
Well, this is the first time that it's gotten this close. So that, to my knowledge, I can think of 3 instances before this in where Trump's had to have been either rushed off stage or the Secret Service has come in front of him or something. There's that famous clip of Trump back in 2016. I think he's in Nevada, but that guy tries to rush the stage and he grabs the podium and he kind of like jerks around like this, and the Secret Service kind of come up around him. There was another one where, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I do carry a Colt 45 with me, so I might
love how seriously you take this. Like, you came on with a suit tonight with your red tie.
Bro, I'm fired. I am fired up. Someone called me an Americanist in the comment section. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what Americanism is. But yeah, like, he's been attacked before. But like, just, I mean, think about how insane this is. It's on high definition television, 4K, 1080p television, and the guy moves his head an inch and survives death.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone is not only just a miracle, but also just on a natural level. I mean, what does that do to your psyche? So I don't know how many of you guys watched at least Trump's entrance last night into the GOP convention, right, where he has the, ear patch and all that. But you could see him getting emotional because he sees how much people believe in him, that like we can actually turn this thing around.
Yeah, you even think about, look, okay, so I know a lot of people in our audience. First off, our audience does not typically enjoy political talk, but this is such a big deal that we don't typically do politics, but we do talk culture. And this is a cultural moment that you have to have a conversation about. Like, there's no way you do a commentary show and you're not at least going to discuss this.
If we were talking about Lofton streaming about us, as opposed to Trump potentially being assassinated, I'd be like, yeah, there's going to be like nobody. That
was one of the words you shouldn't have said, but okay.
Nobody doing this. It's too late. We have Alex Jones in the title.
But yeah, it's such a huge cultural moment that you have to actually just sit and discuss it, right? And it's you think about what the Trump family has been through for the past 8 years, 10 years, really. So since he announces he's running, right? So you think about, because I saw a clip of Don Jr. like snapping on an MSNBC host from at the convention.
Yeah.
And he's just like, just get away from me. Like, just leave me alone, get away. And you think about what that family has been through for the past 10 years, right? So I've always thought Trump was a bit of a narcissist. I still think that, you know, the guy's a narcissist, but part of what motivates him, I think, like, he really thinks he is a sign of hope for people. And if you like, none of us can possibly imagine the amount of outpouring of love this guy gets everywhere he goes, right? Like, we get, you know, if somebody bumps into me at mass and they're like, hey, I watch your show, I'm like, ooh, you know, it's like, could you imagine every place you go, people are just like, I mean, he's got God Emperor status. This guy,
he's crossed the Rubicon into legend mode with this assassination. Like, if people thought his popularity was peak, no, it's gone beyond that, and rightfully so. Because again, how many people can say, "I took a bullet for this country"? And, you know, all he needs to do at the next debate is just be like, Joe, I took a bullet for this country. You messed the country up. You know, that's all he needs to say.
He's done a lot more than that. I mean, you really think about what, like, so even Don Jr., the things that the press has written about this guy, like the smear attempts, the attempts to throw him in prison,
all of those guys have been drawn into congressional hearings for years. I mean, 2 impeachment inquiries, 6 federal cases and state cases combined, 400 plus years of criminal indictment potentially if convicted, states trying to keep him off the ballot, and now an assassination attempt.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Look, Joe did give his entire cognitive ability to this country. Okay. But yeah, you think just like what they've been through for the past decade is really pretty nuts. And then for this moment to happen, I mean, even you think about like having one of those I mean, he could have been in shock. The idea that he was in shock and he's like, wait a minute. And he stands up with that like the foresight to know the moment he was in, you know, it's just a completely outrageous time to witness, man.
It goes to show you how much he believes in America, because number one, he stood up because he wants his family and all of us to know that this guy is serious, that he's serious about what he's doing. But then on top of it, it's a good message, I think, for everybody. You know, not to be like too sentimental about this, but any struggle that we're going with, we can get up and overcome it by the power of Christ, etc. And Trump gets up literally from being shot and manages to say, fight. Like, you don't get much more epic than that.
And I know our audience tends to be black-pilled on politics. And so that's where I was going with it. So, like, we don't typically discuss politics on this show. Nick gets so excited whenever something's so big in the news we have to, because, I mean, I just don't have the enthusiasm you do for politics. But what I realized this weekend is I don't care how black-pilled you are on politics. It's kind of like WrestleMania for me. It's like, I know it's fake, but it's still so entertaining and exciting. You know, it's like, yeah, I know Hulk Hogan's not really in the, you know, so no matter what
Hulk
happens,
Hogan is real. Just get over it, all right?
That is true. He is real.
He has the greatest entrance song, let's be honest. Like, Trump's entrance song is pretty good, but it could be more epic with Hulk
Trump
Hogan.
Trump could have a better entrance song, but nobody will let him use their music.
Yeah, exactly, because
nobody will let him use their music, you know. But
he should just use their music, and then when he gets sued and becomes president, he just pardons himself.
Is it a federal thing? No, it's copyright stuff. That's
you can't like the smallest. But they, you know what? They probably would trump that up to some type of felony, knowing them.
This is what I wanted to click. Yeah. So whether or not you even are checked into this election, like I wasn't even planning on voting this election, but the last few weeks have just made me like, all right, I gotta at least take a try at it, regardless of what happens. Because part of the entertainment is no matter what they do to this guy, his popularity just soars.
Exactly.
Like no matter what, you've never seen the deep state fails so big at something like this. Alex Jones will be here soon, guys.
He will be here soon.
He'll be here soon now. Kennedy will be. Kennedy will be here very soon.
You're not wrong, though, because, I mean, think about this. Trump is like the embodiment of the classic Americana story. He is the American story because every American loves, number one, an underdog. But just like our own country, we start off strong, right? We beat one of the greatest superpowers in the world, right? Albeit with the help of the French. And then we get knocked down, 1812, etc. But then we come roaring back.
Canadians.
Dude, don't bring up 1812.
Yeah, please don't bring it up when Kennedy comes on.
Bro, I'm just gonna direct every conversation back to 1812 now that you guys. But it's like this. It's like, you know, we're basically in Rocky 3.
Yeah, but wait, real quick. We have had Barack Obama on this show. So, I mean,
that is
some
true.
of you guys are new listeners. We have had Barack Obama on this show, and we've had Jimmy Aiken on this show.
And we legitimately had Mel Gibson, who should have been.
That's what's crazy. We actually had Mel Gibson on this show. Wasn't one of the Secret Service women and one of Anthony's kid, probably.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
We have so many videos and memes to go through. Should we just jump in, or do we?
I think we should, since we started with the Secret Service woman, I think we should jump in and start with Grantham's video on what he saw with the Secret Service. Yeah. Mostly so I can put Grantham in the description, and hopefully he'll watch the video and come on with it.
Who's Grantham? I don't know. Like you sent me this, and I'm like, who is this guy?
He's a big gun tuber.
He's a YouTube. Do you know the phrase?
Was this the guy's shirt? He was wearing this guy's, the
No, that was Demolition Ranch.
No, yeah.
That was. Do you watch him too?
No, not so much him. Grantham, I would imagine is Catholic because he's got a big Sacred Heart tattoo on one arm.
That's true.
He's got a Virgin Mary tattoo on the other. He's got a Beretta that is just sick and has the most cool.
Yeah, you guys are just such gun nerds. I'm like, what is Rob sending me right now? I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. So, all right, yeah, let's play it.
Okay, let me pull it up here.
There's really one thing that's been bothering me about
the audio is very low, Rob.
Secret Service response, and that's primarily the level of training and physical fitness that we saw in a lot of the agents there. When I think
Rob, pause it real quick. Even when you sent it to me, the audio was low.
Okay, let me just pull it up.
See if you can find another version of that video. Me and Nick will chat while you do. Because even when you sent it to me, I thought there might be an issue with that.
Well, we can easily lead into this discussion. So
here, I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay, cool.
Okay. Is Anthony doing the tech tonight?
Yes.
Is that any better?
Me about the whole Secret Service response. That's primarily.
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
Like maybe slightly, but I mean, I think the whole discussion of the Secret Service should be had because they would have you believe that a 20-year-old managed to outsmart the entire Secret Service.
I actually do believe that.
And I'm like, well, see, that's the thing. I was discussing this with a friend today. We have one of two theories. Either A, the Secret Service is completely incompetent because of their DEI hires, which I completely, agree with. It's completely overrun with nonsense. But then on the other hand, there's no way on earth that someone's going to tell me that this was not at least known about. And that they hesitated intentionally.
Yeah, no. Like the set of circumstances that we're being told happened are just so preposterous that the level of incompetence.
Yeah, by the same people who are trying to throw him in jail.
Yeah, this is just. That's why I said like the deep state has just. They shot themselves with this. It's just
they insane
with by missing him. They missed the chance because now security's got to be hyped up. Like there's no other excuse at this point where like there's a lapse in judgment. They had their opportunity. So if this was a let it happen kind of thing where they knew it was going to happen, they let it happen anyway, and they purposely didn't guard that spot, whatever it was, the idea that another slip up could happen. I don't know how I don't know. They could probably get away with anything at this point. They just don't seem to care. That's what it is. They just even the Secret Service lady, her excuse, like the head of the Secret Service is a woman, and we have video of her a few months back.
Who's prior job was security for Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Well,
Wild.
she did have a Secret Service detail before Pepsi. Like, I think she was on vice president detail and then went to Pepsi and then came back, and now she's heading the Secret Service. I think I might be off on that. I think now, but there's video of her a few months back saying our goal is to have 30% women in the Secret Service
by 2030.
doing this job. And it's why?
Yeah.
I mean,
Every
how-
woman on a Secret Service detail is someone that they passed up a more qualified man for.
a more qualified man.
Yeah, exactly. They just want to do this because DEI is one of their rights in their sacramental religion of wokeism. That's just the only reason. And what you find in it is not only is it just unjust and irrational because, you know, it's kicking men out, but then number two, you see the reality that those women could not block Trump because they were shorter than him. They're shorter and smaller than him in stature. So they're unable to block him. And so what use is this? And of course, we showed at the very beginning the lady who couldn't even put her gun into the holster. I'm like, are you joking? This is something that every just like junior shooter does at the range, and you can't even find your holster.
Yeah, because I have gun guys at work, like, you know, and they're just like, dude, you shouldn't even have to look down for your holster. Like, you know where
You just
you're
know where it is.
I don't have a handgun, so I don't know, but
The only thing could be when you get into an event like that, you have an adrenaline dump, and all of your fine motor control is just gone. Now,
she was still able to chew gum.
Yeah.
but so that's overcome either A, by training, or B, you know, being in action prior and just knowing how to deal with it. So clearly she had never seen actual action prior, and B,
Yes.
clearly had not had enough training to get that motor memory down. So
Pull up the article that I sent Rob about this woman, because there's an article where the Daily Mail showed an interview with her, and it's insane what she says. Why? She gives a reason why there were no agents up on the roof. And it's just so preposterous. I sent it to your text, and I told you to send it to I didn't send it to show.
Something I sent. Okay.
Yeah, it should have been something you sent,
Yeah.
because I told you to send it.
Yeah, on the sloped roof. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but all the gun guys on Twitter were making just fun of this earlier today, showing pictures of them shooting from sloped roofs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, the same exact slope on a roof where the other guys were set up, they're saying. So, embattled Secret
hold
Service head Kimberly Cheadle has revealed the fateful and bizarre reason why her agency failed to put an agent on the rooftop. Cheadle, who is facing calls to resign over the massive security failures, said Secret Service officials planning security for the rally considered the warehouse 147 yards away, where Trump spoke, to be a risky position for stationing an agent. Chilling new details have revealed that a team of local police snipers were inside the building. There were cops inside the building, but not on the roof. Now, her excuse is the roof was too steep to put someone on it.
But
Even
yeah,
I
though-
can find that part.
I mean, it's just so
Yeah, right
preposterous.
here.
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, you know, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof.
Trump got shot because of OSHA.
yeah, exactly. Not to mention the fact that there's a bigger sloped roof that the snipers were on behind Trump. So that's not a real excuse.
This kind of reminds me of when I used to smoke, and my wife would be like, "Babe, please don't smoke." And I'm like, "Babe, I don't think you understand. I'm at work and I'm breathing in concrete dust and steamed diesel fuel. Like, I don't think the cigarettes are going to do it."
Yeah,
to
that
me. I think
formaldehyde coats the
Yeah.
lungs and keeps the bad stuff
I'm
out.
like, I don't like. This is just like a woman way of thinking. Like, somebody could get hurt up on that roof. Like, are you freaking kidding me? You gave a shooter a perfect. Essentially gave them like a blind, you know, like a hunting blind, because you didn't want to put anybody in danger. Going
I guess
there.
one of the local cops saw this kid using a rangefinder, laser rangefinder, from
And they
not
took-
from the top of that building, but just from down in that area, called it in, and then basically lost sight of him, and
Yes.
nothing was done about
I
it.
heard they thought they might have been binoculars.
Uh,
Like they're talking about like 30 minutes before the thing happened. They have
Exactly.
people calling in suspicious character, things going on. It's just
Because
It's just-
he goes up to the
Yeah,
wall
so-
and puts
so
his
you have to
ladder up
be-
at 3 times.
you have to be an absolute idiot to think a laser rangefinder is a binocular, because it's literally it's monocular.
Yeah, that's true. That's
like
true. It's a single.
That's a laser range. That's what you would have been using.
Exactly. And what's so interesting also about this story is, again, you saw it break really quickly in the whole news article cycle, that the cops go up to him as he's ascending this ladder for apparently now the third time, and points his gun at the individual. That's what they, were officially told.
Because the cop went up the ladder, right?
Exactly. And so the cop retreats. But see, here's the thing that also doesn't make sense. The same agency is saying that the kid was up there on the roof assembling his firearm. So either A, right, he's just hanging out there assembling his firearm, which is just not, snapping all into piece. And then the cop comes up there and he points the gun at him and the cop leaves. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? It's at best a complete and utter failure of the Secret Service.
I think the bigger point here is that because of what we've all seen over the past 8 years, the credibility of the government is so low.
Exactly.
That we're not willing to extend them any credit at all.
Why should they? Why should they?
Our first instinct is to think setup, because of the nonsense that we have watched over and that's kind of goes back to the conversation I was having with all these older Gen X boomer guys, that they just couldn't believe the country we were in, and they were just like, I can't. So the conversation was basically, I'm like, hey, they're like, I just can't believe they took a shot. And I'm like, you can't believe they took a shot on him. Like, I can't believe this is the first time a shot has been taken. I mean, like the things that they have been saying about this guy, telling everyone he's an existential threat to democracy. Like, because you've heard the term stochastic terrorist used by them. Like, they'll say, they accuse Tucker Carlson of being a stochastic terrorist because he'll say things like, immigrants are coming in and they're replacing the Americans, and they call that a dog whistle for replacement theory and all these, and they call Tucker Carlson a stochastic terrorist, when for 10 solid years all we have heard from these people is this amped up rhetoric calling Trump literally mustache guy. They've been, I mean, just the things that they've said, and the thing is,
Adolf Hitler wasn't on the list, we can't say.
Well, good, because I was going to say they have made him Satan Hitler, and now he has another little Satan Hitler that's apparently worse, JD Vance. And what was so funny to me is that Biden, in his official clearly intern written tweet, releases, and they say, here's the thing about JD Vance, he's an extremist. And I'm like, fool, anybody he could have chosen would have been an extremist in your worldview. That's the thing. You guys have ramped this all up. Who can forget in 2022 the famous red background speech of Biden, where he talked about extreme MAGA Republicans with the Marines in the background and the blood red tint and all of that? This guy has ramped up political division, and this whole unity nonsense he's trying to do is a complete shill.
Do we want to shift to the JD Vance conversation or not? Yeah, I think we should hold off on that, because I do want to get into that, because I think it's interesting to watch conservatives, and especially conservative Catholics, hold the Republican Party to a higher standard than they hold the Vatican. But I'm so contrarian that when I see somebody defend it, I want to argue with them. And when I see somebody like downplay it, I want to argue with them. Like,
no, I'm feeling the same way with this whole thing.
I'm not kidding. Anytime I see somebody downplay the idea of having Amber Rose there, I'm like, she's a filthy porn star. And then anytime somebody will,
no, I'm completely against having her there. So
somebody will say that, and I'll be like, yeah, but like, it's just the contrarian.
No, I get that. That's why, like, this morning I was kind of trolling in the chat because people were throwing up pictures of JD Vance. Particularly, I kept seeing this from screenshots of people. It was Groypers who were putting up this photo of JD Vance at the Western Wall. But these are the same people that if I can send a photo of Pope Francis at the Western Wall, they'll be like, no, that's base. That's base. He's praying for their conversion. That's what he's doing.
Here's the thing with the Wailing Wall thing that I don't think people really understand.
Which is why it's not even the Western Wall.
Is that what do you mean?
Most likely it's actually the wall of the Roman barracks.
Yeah, that's one strong historical theory that it was it is it Fort Hadrian? Is that the name of it? Fort Hadrian?
Yeah.
I think
part
that's
of
Oh,
the
you're
Roman-
saying that's a Roman wall? No, but the
the Romans tore down the temple completely.
Yeah, the whole temple. Yeah. But the purpose of the Wailing Wall and the idea of praying there is that you're praying for the temple to be rebuilt, which is why it's so scandalous when a pope does this, right? But when for people to point out JD Vance doing this, because I'm really of two minds about this whole thing, where how can we expect the Republican Party to uphold Christian moral principles and conserve Christian values when our own church is not doing that, right? Our own church is inviting pro-abortion speaker. And I kind of don't want the show to devolve down that way, but it's a
good point to bring up, though. Like, I mean,
you got to fix the church so the church can set the example of what the Republican Party should be. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's literally what I've been telling people. It's just the classic story of Matthew 7:1-5, where our Lord says, right, judge not. And if you have why are you judging a guy who has a speck in his eye when you have a log in your own? I will agree with people, right? I disagree with JD Vance on his take on abortion. I disagree with JD Vance when it comes to his, support for Israel. I agree with him on like 98% other things. But here's the thing. If you're going to criticize him for those two things, while at the same time, the vicar of Christ, the supreme Roman pontiff, is praying at the Wailing Wall, having pro-abortion feminists at the Pontifical Academy for Life, etc., then you have no room to stand on. Now, I guess you're consistent if you... I'll go for it.
Even Harmeet Dillon praying that wacko Hindu prayer.
It happens every day at the Vatican. That's
what I was going to say. Like all they're doing is ecumenism. Like, I don't understand. You guys are getting mad.
And it's like the Republican Party is not Christianity. And you know what's interesting? Like, we've tried to say for years now, like, don't put your faith in the Republican Party, put your faith in Christ. I agree. But then all of a sudden, when the Republican Party, which is a secular organization, right, whom I'm a member of, decides to be a little bit ecumenical, which I don't even necessarily like, people flip off and they're just like, you betrayed Christ.
Look,
and I'm like,
I hate it on both sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending this. Who was the god or goddess that she was praying to? What was the name?
It was I forget the name, but she was Sikh. She was Sikh.
God.
Haraka Guru or something. Could you imagine the one true God chose a ridiculous name like that? Like, come on.
Guru.
Yeah, like who can even pronounce that? That's just absurd to say that that's the one true God. Settle down.
There is actually interesting. There is one Hindu cult that most people don't know about. So Hinduism, I know she's a Sikh, but it just reminds me of this. Hinduism is not a monolith, and there's actually one Hindu cult out there that thinks Adolf Hitler was like Shiva incarnated, who was sent to like destroy the Amish people from the earth. I'm like,
the
all right.
are a Hindu cult. I did not know that.
Yes, exactly. No, it's actually a serious cult out there. People check it out. I forget what it's called, but it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me. That's all. I'm just saying it's just an interesting thing to watch. Where I'm disgusted with all of it. There is no the thing is I don't care about politics enough to get upset about this stuff.
I like politics, and I don't even really care this much because, number one, I'm like, okay, first off, the Republican Party also had a bishop and a priest up there, which was pretty based. But here's the thing. The Republican Party of like the 80s and the 90s definitely wouldn't have had a Catholic up there. They wouldn't have had a Catholic up, at least a Catholic priest up there, because they were all hardcore evangelicals, Southern Baptists, Presbyterians, and so they would have said, heck no to that. Well, and so to me, I'm like, okay, look, I don't necessarily like it either, but it's a secular organization. Whereas we're allowing Buddhists to go into Catholic churches, according to the Directives of Ecumenism written by John Paul II, 1995. Go check this out. I think it's paragraph 280. If the bishop sees that there is a religious group in his diocese, a non-Catholic group that doesn't have a place for worship, he can give a Catholic church to them. So we can freak out about like a Sikh praying on the GOP stage, and I get when the Pope allows this stuff.
But he can't give the church to the SSPX.
Yeah, exactly.
I get this position, right? Because some of the things Vance has said on abortion are abysmal. I mean, he's essentially a Democrat from the 90s when it comes to this issue, which another word I shouldn't have said. But there's what I will say.
Abortion.
Oh, okay.
What I will say is the guy just converted in 2019, right? Especially, well, now I know like that issue is flat out. Like, there's no question on it. The IVF thing, everybody's making a big deal out of. I didn't understand IVF until probably 5 years ago. Like, when I started taking my faith really seriously, right? I just never understood really what goes into IVF. And it took listening to former IVF doctors explaining what actually happens at these clinics for me to go, oh, wow, this isn't, because most conservatives hear IVF and they think, oh, this is pro-life. Like, we're helping make life. They don't actually understand the moral principles that underpin the Catholic position on this, why it's not just that you discard 10 embryos to have one. That is the worst part, but you're also separating the marital act. There's a bunch of things that go into this that where, there's typically a dude going in looking at filth to do something himself. And that, there's a layer upon layer of issues that go into this where you can't always expect a new convert to know all these things.
Yeah, because IVF is a bit more complex.
Right. The life issue, because you see a lot of Christians that just don't understand it. And they think IVF just means, oh no, we're bringing life into the world. They're not really, they just don't understand it. So you can give a little leeway on that. The life thing, look, the conditions they always bring up are this 10-year-old girl that got assaulted by and it's like, you guys come up with the most insane extreme examples. And it's like, of course, a well-formed Catholic is going to say, yes, there's no scenario where punishing the child for the crimes of the father is justified. Like, it's just, but I was listening to Gavin Ashenden today talk about this, and he goes, look, even after I converted to Catholicism, it took some time for me to really, understand the gravity of this, so he converts, he becomes Catholic, and then having conversations with other Catholics is kind of what moves him in that direction. And we're also 16 weeks out from the election. This issue, look, the last Republican convention, they had Lila Rose, they had a nun up there. They went so hardcore pro-life and they lost the election. So they're just looking at the landscape and going, let's just chill out on this issue. Look, just try, so when JD Vance answers those questions, he's not like hard positioning, oh, I am for this. He's kind of just like brushing it off, trying to get past the topic because he doesn't want to make this a soundbite for the Democrats to grab and use.
Exactly.
Right? So
people, if they go back and so I want to like preface this again. I assent to the church's teaching on this 100%, and I disagree with Trump's and JD's position on abortion. Both of them have basically held, well, Trump has held this view of the states, it's up to them for forever. He's had that position for a long time. You can see old interviews where he talks about this. And so for him, he's at least being consistent, right? He appoints pro-life judges around the country, and he appointed the judges that overturned Roe. Now, here's the interesting thing, y'all. When we look at all of the special elections about that said subject, right, that have taken place, the conservative position has gotten trounced every single time, including in states like Kansas, which is as red as you can possibly get. So here's the issue. We need, if we're wanting this conversation to change, we need the church to be doing way more on this said issue, right? And a good idea about this would be withholding communion from Biden, which is just not going to happen. But then also at the same time, we need to be way more involved ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we got to do.
Yeah. Look, they kicked this back to the state level. It's on us at the local level to take care of this issue now. I'm just,
exactly.
and I don't want anybody to think I'm justifying their positions on this. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but I'm not justifying anything that they're doing. I'm just trying to give you guys the mindset of where they're at. The average voter isn't. Yeah. Look, Eric Sammons tweeted something today. He said, which was a really good take. I don't think most Catholics understand how much of a minority we are. Like, we are infinitesimally small. The devout Catholics who uphold all the moral principles and moral teachings of the Catholic faith. We are so small that we are politically homeless. There is no political party that is going to be what we want it to be. So I don't know. So the position then becomes, do we just, like, I don't know. It's not the lesser of two evils at this point. It's, you have one party actively trying to destroy the country we live in, draft our children into foreign wars that we want no part of.
Blatant commies.
Yeah,
Blatant
and so it's not just the lesser of two evils. It's like, okay, well, one group actually wants to ravage the country you live in. The other group has terrible ideas on how to prevent that from happening. I think those are the two options we have.
And exactly, and it was what I said the other night. Pope John Paul II's model for Christian activism on this very issue is an issue that we can very easily jump into. He says that if all we can do, right, if we don't have a government that can do a blanket ban on these said subjects, then what we can do is on local levels, vote into power people who can at least minimize the damage. And ideally, then we would organize on a ground level to be able to force candidates forward that would be able to do good things. If that's not going to happen, right, then that's on us. That's our fault. But you're right, Anthony. The left is anti-American. It's explicitly anti-God. It pushes this rainbow stuff 24/7, the mutilation of children 24/7.
They hate
We see
us.
them. They literally hate us. And you see they burn the flag in the streets. They always talk about the glories of other countries, but then they dog America 24/7. So what are we going to do? And, this rubs off on a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of young people and they'll just say, well, I don't know why, we should be proud to be Americans. And I say, okay, there's a difference between being proud of your government and being proud of your country. There's a lot of things, for instance, my family's done for the United States that has been great, that they've really risked their lives and risked their careers to defend this country from commies and all kinds of insanities.
Yeah, and yes, the Catholic vote is sought after, the normie Cath, and you're talking about Catholics who have been raised in this milquetoast version of the Catholic faith for the past 60 years since the council, however long it's been, just being desensitized to everything. And this is why the majority of our shows are focused more on Catholicism, right? And it's trying to form people so that they understand, yes, we are politically homeless. There is no Catholic vote for us. Like, it's just not. I think there will come a time where there may be. It's just not. It's not now.
Yeah.
And I do think we're witnessing something very entertaining. And I'm here for the show. It's fun. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm not white pilled on politics. I'm black pilled on them, but it's still interesting to see. Look, I think so. Most of the people I talked to this weekend, I was like, okay, so if you think they stole it in 2020, why do you have hope for now? And most of them think that the momentum is just so strong. They don't have the pandemic this time, and they just think that. Yeah,
also, like multiple states have been defortified. There's so much evidence out there. People actually want to dig into it, of the states that have been defortified, to where that's why this election is going to be potentially an insane 1980s style landslide. We
thought that last election.
No. Most of the commentators I watched, right, who are independent, said that it was going to be a nail biter, which it did. It came down to less than 144,000 votes in several key states, at least at the end of the day, right? It came down to that very close break.
I think the last one was.
No, I think it was completely fishy. There was
50 electoral votes too. Like, I really do. I think
it was completely fishy stuff. I'm not denying that at all.
I don't know what they're going to do this time.
My issue is also, though, is that when we look at the data, we see that it was specific.
Oh, look, everybody keeps asking. I thought Kennedy Hall was going to be here, and I didn't want to be a liar.
Kennedy should change his name to Alex Jones, and then we can say Alex Jones was on the show.
Kennedy, what's this whole thing look like from across the border, my friend? What is the American political circus? What is the view from Canada?
We're talking about the assassination and then kind of like the upcoming election, for context.
Do you mean what do Canadians think of it, or what do I think of it?
What do you think? Like, what is it? What are your impressions of the past 72 hours?
So I've been thinking about this a lot. I recorded a video that I never posted, but I just wanted, I don't know if you've ever done that. And finally, the token Canadian, your DEI scores are up.
We won't be shadow banned anymore.
So I'll give a little bit of a backstory to explain what I mean. So in 2015, I had my like major conversion, you know, like whatever, another story, another day. I was basically a liberal before that. I was like, you know, classic British liberal was kind of my creed. Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it's what we call our Constitution, that sort of thing. And I was all like rule of law and, you know, the democratic process and all these kinds of things. Then I had this big conversion, and then I didn't give a hoot about politics or the news because I had more important things to think about, and I wanted to read C.S. Lewis and the Summa and Chesterton and just become a good Catholic. Then 2016 comes around, and the world would not let you not think about politics.
Yeah.
And I remember I didn't know anything about Donald Trump other than he had a reality TV show and he was in Home Alone.
Yeah, he helped Kevin find the lobby.
That's all I knew. I never watched The Apprentice because I don't like reality TV anyway. So I never watched it. So I was like, oh, some TV star who has a lot of money is running against some evil lady who wants to kill all the babies. And I thought, this is the worst thing ever. And I remember I had some American friends were visiting, good, faithful Catholics, and I said, man, this sucks for you guys. You got to choose between whoever that guy is and Hillary Clinton. This is the summer 2016. This is like early July.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this friend says to me, no, you got to go Trump. And I was like, really? I wasn't upset. I was like, oh, why? I mean, you're a smart person. Why do you think that? And, you know, it was because he's pro-life and all that kind of stuff. And objectively speaking, he did deliver with the judges and so forth. That can't be denied.
But wait,
And
okay. So
I also-
wait. So you're a Canadian. You're kind of just living in the culture, not really paying attention to politics. But the Canadian zeitgeist, it just automatically assumed Trump is the bad guy, right?
It wasn't crazy. No, it wasn't that bad yet. It wasn't that bad yet. It was like he's the unserious guy. Like, who is the? It was just some unserious TV person is running against a serious lady. It was, you know, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And at the time I was working as a teacher, so all of my colleagues, except for like 3 of them, were basically communists. And, you know, publicly funded school. So then it gets shoved in my face. So now I'm in a position where I'm like defending myself because I don't know how to keep my mouth shut. Me and Anthony share that ethnicity in common.
You think?
And
Kennedy?
Yeah.
Kennedy doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut.
It's an African thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta just
So
pause
it
real
got-
quick. I gotta pause
Yeah.
because you have this online persona where you're very brash and you are a very divisive person online because of some of your
Well, thank
positions
you.
on the Novus Ordo, things like that. But I've met you in person. We've hung out, and you might be the kindest, most gentlemanly person. Now, I don't know if that's a Canadian thing, I just think people perceive an online persona as if that's the actual person, and I don't think people realize we're just giving like snippets of our opinions on here.
Well, I mean, the only reason I'm so divisive is because I'm right and everyone's wrong. So it's not really my fault.
I feel that, bro. I feel that.
You Lefebvre's, man.
So okay, so this happens, and then all of a sudden I can't escape it. So I remember getting like yelled at, and I'm in Canada. So I'll tell you what happens.
Yeah.
The day after the election, November 16, the administration comes on the PA, makes an announcement before classes start. I'm teaching high school. We just want everybody to relax. No matter what happened in the election in America, everything's going to be okay. I remember thinking to myself, what flippin' thing just happened? I live in a different country, and they're having to tell people to relax about a different head of state in another nation to a group of high school students and teachers. People
Which is
lost their
quite
minds.
telling.
I was so happy because Donald Trump won. And
Mhm.
so then I'm defending myself.
Do you remember the exhilarating feeling of him winning, though? Because it was one of those things where we just assumed we were going to, like, it felt almost wrong Like it was like so preposterous that we won. It was
I thought
so
he was going to
weird.
win. I thought he was going to win. I've told this story before, but I bet my entire political science class $5
right, yeah,
each
yeah.
that Donald Trump would win because I was looking at the polls very closely and I was looking at the online discussion. Everyone in the chats, everyone in the comment sections of videos was just like, screw Hillary Clinton. I'm voting for Trump. So I was like, he's going to win. The comment section is said thus. And so I bet everyone $5 and I'm making like, I forget, like $400 or something like that. Crazy amount of money. But that day after, it was a Wednesday, all of the professors were like, all right, guys, you don't have to come to class today because I understand you might be stressed out and freaking out. We do have therapy on campus if you need it, et cetera, et cetera.
This
so
is nuts.
I was walking around class taking money from everybody, and the professor was the last one to give me money. It was this lesbian with the butch haircut. She gave me her $5, and then she's just like, well, I'm glad you won your bet, but we have an open white supremacist that's at head of state now. And I think it's telling that Kennedy's telling his story because, again, it goes to show you how much the liberal world order is interconnected. Like, why would they even care? It's like if we hear about a Cambodian election, do you think that, like, your average American is going to care? So
I just think it's funny that
Yeah.
the same people who burned down the White House 200 years ago then had to have therapy for who was voted into it in
so
2016.
true. So true, Rob. So true.
All right, so Kennedy.
Yeah,
all right,
those
so
people
Kennedy.
are gone
So
though.
they make this announcement at the school. Pick up your story. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. So that 4 years was very crazy for many people's lives, obviously. For me, it coincided with the fact that I became a religious extremist.
So true.
And now, happily so. But now I'm also in the minority in my workplace. Like people who get over it was a Catholic high school. It's funded by the government. I'm not going to go into the history of Catholic education in Ontario. It's a public school that's called Catholic. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same unions and things. So it's the same politics. So the Catholic thing they could stomach for the most part, because it's like, well, we are a Catholic school. He teaches religion. The fact that, and many of the people there, they were like pro-life Democrats. So they were like full-on Marxists on everything, but they're like, but life begins at conception because that's teaching of the church. So it was this weird thing. So they could get over that. But then with the politics thing, like the thing is, 18-year-old kids are jerks a lot of the time, and they're basically adults. I'm like 26 at the time, 27 or whatever. I'm like almost their peer. So we kind of talk to each other.
Wait, in 2016? In 2016, you were 26?
I was born in
17,
88, so I was
bro.
turning 28, I guess. Yeah.
Dang, bro. I'm 26 right now.
I was turning 28, I guess.
I think it's the beard.
Yeah, because
the beard makes you look like
my second son was born.
The
I
beard
look like
makes you
I'm turning
like you're-
50 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
I've picked a line of work with no stress whatsoever. But
It's all charismatic.
so yeah, exactly. Put a curse on me with their voodoo tongues. But basically, I'm in the position now where I'm like defending Donald Trump, not because I'm not American. I didn't vote for him, but it's because it's a matter of the truth. Like the big thing, this is a big thing, was the whole quote unquote Muslim ban. And I had been listening at the time. I know that they're way more cringe than they were. Let's be honest. Daily Wire 7-8 years ago when they were on their rise.
Yeah, they were.
It was fun to listen in. I really liked Andrew Klavan's show. The reason I liked it was because he's like a writer and an artist, and I was an aspiring author, and he would give all this advice on writing. And he's a great writer, objectively speaking. He's very talented. So I would listen to his and kind of get my news that way. Anyway, I don't listen to them. Haven't listened to them probably in 5 years. But basically since after the last election when they kind of totally disregarded any notion it could have been stolen, I was like, you guys suck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they dumped Trump. They dumped Trump.
I was like, you guys, come on. Like, you have to at least be open to the possibility. So, but at the time, like, I was listening to all that stuff. So I have my stats. I was like, listen, there's like 6 countries that aren't allowed in, and they're all at war. And Venezuela is also on the list. And like 85% of Muslims, as long as they have their visa, which is a matter of whatever their government does and whatever, that's different. That's a different issue. They can come and go as they please, just like anybody else. And I kid you not, I was saying this to somebody in the staff room, and they just called me a bigot and a racist. Like this one colleague of mine, he's like a 70-year-old man who was like a friend. He was an old Italian guy, actually. And I think he was happy to say, so that's not his fault. But he just starts calling me a racist and a bigot. he ended up apologizing, but I was like, what is happening here? We're in Canada. I'm just defending what's objectively happening to reality based on the things that are verifiable, and now I'm a racist, and I'm like, this is insane. And then things like that just kept happening. So for those 4 years,
you never
I was very pro-Trump.
Black card?
That's just Sicilians.
Oh, true. True. Sorry.
Sicily is the part of Africa that neither Africa or Italy wanted, so they put it in the middle. But
that's my ancestry.
So in any event, those basically until March of 2020, with COVID starting, I was like, I'll defend Trump anytime. It was almost like a badge of honor, because it was like, well, I dug my heels in now. I'm not going to back down. That's gay. So then 2020 starts and lockdown begins, and I was very anti the whole COVID narrative since literally day one, just for other reasons. It just happened that way. So I was really upset when Trump sort of bought the narrative. But basically until kind of the summer I was really disheartened. I was like, what the heck, man? This sucks.
Yeah.
But then in the summer of love, start getting back on the Trump train. He he changed his tune. Let's be honest. He was calling for things to open. He was better than my guy. Like, if I'm living in Canada, let's be honest.
At least most of the lockdowns in the U.S. were by blue governors for the most part. Not trying to excuse it, but a lot of it was due to those governors.
Yeah. Yeah, and now with perspective, looking back on that, that thing was like the psyop of all time. So people believed it for a bit, and they kind of wised up. Whatever, it is what it is. Trump himself, as much as he was pro-vaccine, he was against mandates. Like, he would, be interviewed and stuff, and he'd say, no, I'm not doing mandates. And that's really all I cared about. I know that people think it's the mark of the beast, and maybe it was, but the point is, I just cared about the mandates. That was the thing that affected my life. If you want to take Advil, I don't care. If you want to take a vaccine, go die if you want. It's not my choice for you. So whatever you want to do. So
we're just using all the words tonight.
Anthony, I told you, bro. I was like, how do you expect us to not say one word to get demonetized on a stream with Alex Jones in the title talking about assassinations?
I meant the polio vaccine. Relax. I don't know if that's I don't know if you're allowed to say that either. So, but then I really fell off the Trump train because, he lost. Obviously, I don't think it was legitimate. But then it was just COVID consumed my life because I'm here in Canada. It's like I have other local governance, provincial governance became all I really cared about. I'm writing for LifeSite News. The world is ending, lockdowns, mandates. Finally, when the Freedom Convoy comes around, I can breathe again. It's kind of nice. And I wasn't thinking about Trump. And to be honest, starting to get a little black-pilled. How do you not get black-pilled under that regime here in Canada under COVID? And then I got to the point where people who were really pro-Trump started to come off as cringe to me. I started to get annoyed, and
I feel that.
I started to be like, really? Come on. Let's be honest here. And then recently, just with the election coming up, obviously the funny memes and stuff start coming out. Okay, Trump's funny. I forgot how funny he was, that sort of thing. But then with the assassination attempt, I kind of had this epiphany. Not that I was ever public about these views, but the Jack Posobics of the world, the Steve Bannons of the world, the Charlie Kirks, I kind of thought it was a bit much. I was like, man, really, guys? Can you just drop it? To be honest, I think they understood it better than I did the whole time. I'm not saying everything they've said is correct. What I'm saying is they've been saying since then, they've been saying you don't understand how bad it is. You don't understand he's the only guy who will literally die for this country. And it's like, great, this is another one of those boomer sound bites. We're going to fix the nation. It's like, why don't you fix your marriage? You can't fix anything, It's just one of those things people say, but they were correct. I don't care who you are. Your country right now, they want to kill you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They want to kill Donald Trump because they want to kill every single person on this stream. And if they could come get me, they'd kill me too because I like him too.
Exactly.
That Destiny person, that crazy person. I've never watched anything. I just saw the clip of the whatever saying, the guy dies at the rally. That is millions of people. There's a reason why millions of people tune in. You best believe that during the time when there were lockdowns and vaccine mandates, that the left, which is half the country, you best believe a sizable portion of those people were sending memes to each other. They're not funny because liberals aren't funny, but they're sending memes to each other, laughing at things that aren't funny about like, oh, some idiot dies because he's not vaccinated. You best believe they were making jokes about that in their text messages. I bet you if you did
they wanted anybody that didn't get it to die. Like they actually wanted anyone who even had any hesitation, they wanted them gone.
I was working in a grocery store at the time during the height of the pandemic, and we had people all the time who would come in and get into shouting matches with people who wouldn't wear masks. And they would say all the time, "You are exterminating these people around you, and I hope you're exterminated." All kinds of off-the-wall stuff. They want you to die. I'm glad that you brought up Kennedy Jetson. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I'm in somewhat of a more like blue area of Texas because we're outside of Austin. But you're right, bringing up Destiny laughing at the guy who died at the Trump rally, completely laughing, memeing it. These guys do not care.
Yeah, I think we should go over to locals because I think I want to talk. I have things I want to say. I want to it's really insane where the world is, because it's not just, so that's why I kind of wanted your perspective, because it's not like you're in Canada looking in, but it's not much different in your country, man. It's there. I don't think there's the same political tension, but it's the same conversations we're having all over Western world right now, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, every single country that I visited had that reaction. They were always asking me about Trump.
Yeah, it's our countries, they're very different in some ways. Our politics are very different, but the threats on everybody's mind are similar. They're just dealt with very differently. So yeah, it's kind of like a both and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're in a position where you guys haven't had, so like we're all, you see everybody over here freaking out because JD Vance and Trump aren't perfect on the pro-life issue. But you're in Canada, and it's like you haven't had a pro-life politician in a long time, right? Like it's like insane over there.
We don't have a culture war. We don't have that. So abortion is very different in Canada legally. There's nothing that can be done by the legislature at all. There was a decision in 1988 called the Morgentaler decision. It was an Amish doctor, Morgentaler, by the way, of course. And he was performing illegal abortions because he's Amish, and he's now seen as a hero. And so what happened was in 1988, the Supreme Court of Canada, they wear red robes, by the way, with white. They look like the flag. It's kind of funny. They look like Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. It's an illegal black hole. There is no law surrounding abortion at all in Canada. So it is permissible up to 9 months, but not because it's legislated up to 9 months, because it's not legislated at all. So it's up to the individual provinces to treat it as a matter of quote unquote healthcare. So some provinces, now late-term abortions have almost never happened in Canada because most people don't do that. I mean, even most people just don't do that. Like, let's be honest, as heinous as people can be, most people just don't do that. Yeah. So maybe there's been 20 in like 30 years, 30 or 40 years. I have no idea. But there hasn't been that many. Let's put it that way. And some provinces don't do them. But anyway, it's not something that's really brought up in Parliament very much because there's really nothing to do about it. Because the Supreme Court has basically what's going to have to happen is somebody else is going to have to bring something to the Supreme Court to make a law about it in the first place, so then some sort of law can be proposed in Parliament to fight the law, because there is no law. It's very weird. Yeah. So that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist here. But although right now, the thing is, Canadian.
What do you mean? There's no culture war in Canada, though? I don't understand what you mean by that. Like, so everything here is the culture war. I mean, it's everything. But I do see. There are issues, like I saw like the father losing his daughter to the ex-wife, and she transitions, and like you guys do deal with those same culture war issues, right?
What I mean is that it's not a campaign issue. So no one campaigns on the culture war. No one talks about it though either. We're very English, you know, like you talk to people in England, like the thing is it's pros and cons. Until Justin Trudeau, Canadian politics was extremely civil. No one ever really talked about it much. I never remember my whole life talking about politics ever with a stranger, with a family member, except for my parents. And it was very brief, like, well, son, I like this guy for these reasons. You should consider that. That's about it. Even in school, never talked about it. It all changed with Trudeau. He was the first, like, Alinskyite politician we've had, basically. I mean, his dad was...
What year did he get it?
2015. His dad was kind of like him, but the thing is, his dad, who was prime minister for like 18 years, because there's no term limits. You can he lost a term and came back, and a couple terms here, like you can be a long time. And so basically, his dad was very much a Marxist, but it was in like the old regime kind of way. Like it wasn't done through, you know, Twitter, or there was nothing. It was 1970s, right? So it was just a different way of doing it. It was more academic, if that makes sense. It was more, I don't know. It was just a different way. But Trudeau the second, Justin, he comes in, and his Canadian dad, I meant. Trudeau the second, he came in 2015. And he did the first very kind of Democrat thing. Like we had this prime minister called Stephen Harper, who was very good. We actually, through the recession, we had a balanced budget with no debt, if you can believe it. Not that that's the only measurable that matters, but I remember at one point our dollar was on par because the American dollar was so low and ours was so high. That was an amazing thing for us because we'd go over and shop in the States and it was like stealing money because everything's cheaper, like numerically. So he was very good. He was an evangelical. He had like the sort of Western kind of Texas of Canada vibe about him, like the oil rig people and all that behind him. And it was very like old school. It was great. And then Trudeau came in and just, there was this, this is how crazy it was. There was this random PhD research program in the Maritimes in an Atlantic province that had grant money for like 20 years. And the Conservative government, because it was a federal grant, decided to stop that grant. And then the professor was a university professor, so he was a communist. And he basically was a musician who had a little bit of a social media thing. So he made like a song called Stop Harper, because Harper was anti-science. And because Harper was anti-science, Harper was going to kill Canada and all the polar bears would die. And the Trudeau government basically turned it into their slogans. There was like Stop Harper, like stickers on like bus signs and all this kind of stuff. And I remember it was really weird because I wasn't that politically involved. I was more like, I voted and stuff, but I wasn't like crazy about it. And I remember talking to people like, we need to stop Harper. And I was like, wait, why? I didn't like him that much at the time. I said I was kind of a liberal, but I was like, why do we have to stop him? What is he doing? And they're like, well, we've got to stop him, you know? And it was the first time I saw that sort of thing. And then it's only escalated. So anyway, it's very similar in some ways, but also the sort of in-your-face culture war stuff, like talking about Jesus and all these kinds of things, which is great. But all that stuff, you never see that. It would be really weird to see that. Yeah.
Okay, before we go over to the other side, let's do the Alex Jones thing because we did put it in the title. So let's at least play the Alex Jones clip. I think I screen recorded it, and there might be like a 5-second commercial in it. We'll have to skip past that. But Alex Jones was on with Tim Dillon, and he thinks because they failed at this, there's things coming up after this. So I want to see what you guys think. What we don't have to play the whole thing. We'll play some of it and just get an idea of what you guys think of his prediction.
About 2 minutes. So we're talking about 120 seconds. This is like a lifetime because in real situations, you got a shooter, you got a guy with a gun, you blast him. So everybody having a debate about and hearings and why this happened, that's all a distraction. So moving on from that, Trump beat all the fake impeachments. He beat the Russiagate. He beat the fake civil cases. He got found guilty, but nobody bought it. They were popular. He got convicted in the New York show trial. That gave him an extra 10 points. In real national scientific polls that are being conducted, I've talked to the Republican Party that's doing these, Trump's about 25 points ahead nationwide. In mainstream news, they say 15 points. In battleground states, he's 10 to 15 points ahead. with dead people out of district, that's not enough. Maybe they can steal a 5-point lead. You can't steal a 10-point lead. You can't steal a 15-point lead. So even in New York, he's now in play. Places like Michigan, 10 points ahead. Pennsylvania, 10 points ahead. Georgia, 15 points ahead. Arizona, 15 points ahead. They can't steal that. So they're in total collapse. They're trying to remove Biden. So you change the subject by killing Trump, and then who is the nominee 1 week before he goes to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the RNC. So now that they shot at the king and missed, and he's even more popular and they're more desperate, as I said 3 years ago, as Tucker said years ago, as I've said on air, and as I personally told Trump, I'll leave it at that. I said, sir, 6 months ago, I said, you are on a trajectory where you've beaten all this. The next thing is assassination. That's why he has the Secret Service. To act like that isn't an issue. Remember, Forbes was saying last night, oh, there was an incident, a backfire of a car or something. They were, shut that down, guys. So they are literally trying to sell you that none of this happened, that there wasn't even assassination. They tried that for like 6-7 hours yesterday, showing you how incredibly disgusting all this is and how the fix is in. So I told you literally like a parrot on methamphetamine what was going to happen in the last couple of years. Now let me tell you the rest of the moves the deep state has.
Please.
He's trying to pull the troops out. Thank you. He's trying to pull the troops out of Ukraine. The U.S. funds 83% of the funding that's public. Trump, people say, oh, Trump can't kill this. He can't stop this. The hell he can't. He's the commander in chief. So Kennedy tried to pull out the troops. He pulled out 100,000 and he was dead a month later in 1963. So here's what the deep state needs to do. Everybody's against him. The whole world's waking up to him. They want to kill, I'll be very slow here. They want to kill Trump now even more because this just gave him 20 points. He's not, all these Democrats that are now voting Trump, he's not going to win by 10 points. He's going to win by 30 points. This is a major political realignment. He got shot in the side of the head, perfect hole right through his ear, quarter inch over, right in the temple. This is so epic. So what is the deep state going to do? I study clandestine operations. I study all this stuff. I had a lot of family worked in this, and I'm not talking about pencil pushing areas of government. I'm talking about overthrow of government people, okay? And they told me all this stuff when I was a kid. So here's what's going to go down. They got the deep state has truck bombs loaded in Florida. They have truck bombs, in my opinion, loaded in Wisconsin. And if they don't block the roads off a half mile from Mar-a-Lago with serious concrete dividers, if they don't block off Wisconsin, which Trump said, screw it, I'm going there tomorrow. If they don't do that, the next move is roll a truck full of plastic explosives.
This brilliant device keeps your home cool in summer, even during heat waves and power.
But
that's the plastic device.
Cyber attacks by the Russians.
This brilliant device keeps your home cool in summer, even during heat waves and power outages. It's smaller than a
into the event. They're also going to try to poison him. They got people inside his organization. So poisoning, truck bombs, shootings is all in the works. Also, they've been pre-programming cyber attacks by the Russians, claiming they're working with Trump supporters. The FBI already put out reports last year saying the Russians working with Trump supporters.
All right, so we can pause it. He basically goes into saying he thinks that the next step is going to be like attacks on black churches, and they're going to blame MAGA. I really don't think they anticipated. I don't think they ever anticipate. I mean, even when they convict him in New York, he gets record fundraising. It's like the more they hit this guy, the more people love him, and the more every single thing they do to him backfires on them, and they just shoot themselves in the foot. So I don't know where this goes from here, but it doesn't seem like they're going to stop. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you where they're going to go. So his discussion on Kennedy is spot on. They took out Kennedy because he wanted to end the war, the Vietnam War that they were in, and he was already pulling lots of troops out. So this, for Trump, his big issue is going to be surviving, not just till November 5th, but then, of course, as the president himself. And he needs to be very, very cautious because we've already seen, I mean, I don't know if you guys have, you saw the story today, but there was already one guy that was killed at the convention, some nut out on the outside that looked like they were trying to get involved in some type of assassination plot, who was already killed. So this is going to continue all the way until I think, he leaves office, if you will. I agree with most of what Joan said. I don't think that they're going to straight up attack black churches yet. That might be way down the line.
The crazy thing with Alex Jones is like he says things and you're like, he's nuts. And then that thing happens.
It's funny. He lives like 30 miles from me. Not that far. He's pretty close. I'll go knock on his door and see if we can stream with him one day.
All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to locals. Somebody just said they just signed up for our locals. They did. Yeah, guys, if you join for a year, it's less than $5 a month. So you can pay for an annual sub. You get it for a year. I think Rob said it at like $50 or something. So
45.
It's even cheaper. So yeah, come over there. We're going to get into some stuff with Kennedy. I want to hear his take on a few things. And we have all the stuff that we can't play over here because of copyright issues. So we're going to go over there. We're going to play the rest of our memes. We're going to see we got to go through Mike Lewis's tweet about JD Vance because the LeftCaths are bugging out about JD Vance. Mike Lewis says, what's next? Vermeulen for Solicitor General, Taylor Marshall as ambassador to the Vatican, Raymond Arroyo for Chief of Staff, Mel Gibson for Secretary of State. All of those things sound great to me.
Which is funny because, again, he's flipping out that JD Vance had a photo with Scott Hahn.
With Scott Hahn.
Like, he's what does he call him? Like trad adjacent now or something like that? It's like white adjacent. Like the Asians are white adjacent now in the woke spectrum.
We'll get into more. We'll get into more Catholicism with Kennedy next. So, all right, we're going to head over there. We'll see you guys over there.
Before we do that, do Nick or Kennedy have anything they want to promote on YouTube?
Just go follow me over on the Traditional Thomist. Go follow me over on social media at the Traditional Thomist or Nick Cavazos. I think I'm going to actually be talking way more about just U.S. politics going forward on the show, just because it's a subject that interests me. And, at least outside of theology, when it comes to Catholic politics, you can only say so much until you get a new pope. So go follow me over there.
All right, Kennedy, what do you got to promote?
You go to Substack, meretradition.substack.com. That's where my premium stuff is. Or you can become a YouTube member on my channel, Mere Tradition on YouTube. I changed the name Kennedy Report. I never liked the name, but it was given to me when I had this like newsy show at the Fatima Center. But I just kept the name because I had it, but it's Mere Tradition. And all the guys who went after Nick's channel, please come to the Canadian Martyrs Men's Conference next February because you probably need it. You need to figure out how to stop playing video games and do some bench press.
Yeah, as we were starting the show, Michael Lofton was reviewing an episode of our show on his channel. So maybe we'll get into that. Maybe we'll talk about the attack on Nick's channel because some people tried hacking Nick's YouTube, and it was over his stance on the Novus Ordo Missae. So, all right, we're gonna go over there. We'll see you guys over there.
Let me just answer this quick. This person, when's the next? They've uncrowned him. So that's a book study I'm doing for paid members. My wife is getting back tomorrow night. I'm actually home with all 6 kids. She's at this homeschooling convention in Philadelphia, actually, and so I will record it Thursday or probably Friday. So it'll be up later this week, probably Friday or the weekend. FYI.
Okay. Yeah. Mike Lewis responded to me on you talking about something you tweeted about Trump being an emperor or something. So we got some stuff we're going to talk about over there. Let's go.
Okay. I'm going to disconnect all the other streams and we'll be back in just a second.